I'm Hazel, 34 years old and a senior software developer at a tech firm in Boston. My relationship with my niece Madison has always been special, despite the complicated history with my older sister Karen. When I spent weeks researching and saving for the perfect laptop for Madison's 15th birthday, I never imagined Karen would publicly dismiss it as cheap in front of our entire family. I definitely didn't expect to walk out with the gift in my hands, leaving my niece in tears. And I certainly couldn't have predicted the desperate situation that would unfold, revealing years of secrets and financial chaos that had been brewing beneath my sister's picture-perfect facade. Before I dive into this family drama, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever dealt with an entitled relative who didn't appreciate your generosity. Trust me, this story takes some unexpected turns. Growing up with Karen wasn't easy. 3 years my senior, Karen always had a sense of entitlement that baffled me. Even as children, the differences between us were stark. While I saved my allowance for books or science kits, Karen would immediately spend hers on trendy clothes or makeup, then wheedle our parents for more when she ran out. My parents, especially my father, had a soft spot for Karen. She was the firstborn, beautiful, and charismatic in a way I never managed to be. Our childhood home was comfortable but not extravagant. Our father worked as an insurance agent while our mother taught elementary school. They valued education and hard work, principles I took to heart, but that seemed to slide right off Karen. She wasn't a bad student, but she did just enough to get by, focusing instead on her social status. By high school, she was firmly established with the popular crowd, dating athletes and attending every party. I, on the other hand, was the awkward one. Glasses, braces, and an insatiable curiosity about computers and coding meant I didn't fit into Karen's world. I spent weekends building my first website while Karen was at the mall spending our parents' money. The divide between us grew wider with each passing year. College further cemented our different paths. I worked part-time jobs throughout my 4 years at MIT, earned scholarships, and graduated with honors in computer science. Karen attended State University on our parents' dime, switched majors 3 times, and finally graduated with a communications degree she never used. 6 months after graduation, she met Richard. Richard came from money, old money. His family owned several car dealerships across New England. He was handsome, charming, and immediately smitten with Karen. Within a year, they were married in an extravagant ceremony that cost more than my entire college education. Karen became a stay-at-home wife and later, a stay-at-home mom to Madison. Meanwhile, I was climbing the tech ladder. Starting as a junior developer, I worked my way up through 3 different companies, eventually landing my current role as a senior software developer. I bought my modest but comfortable condo in Boston, invested wisely, and lived within my means. My relationship with Karen remained strained but civil, mainly for our parents' sake and, later, for Madison. Madison was born when I was 19, still in college. Despite my complicated feelings about Karen, I fell in love with my niece immediately. Even as a baby, Madison seemed to have a spark of curiosity that reminded me of myself. As she grew, this similarity became more apparent. She was thoughtful, inquisitive, and by age 10, showing a genuine interest in how things worked. Karen, surprisingly, allowed me to be part of Madison's life. Perhaps she recognized that Madison and I connected in ways she and her daughter didn't. Or maybe she just appreciated the free babysitting when I'd visit. Regardless of her reasons, I treasured the time with Madison. I taught her basic coding when she was 12, took her to science museums, and encouraged her interest in technology, all things Karen found boring. "Auntie Hazel, can you show me how to make a website?" Madison would ask during our weekends together, her eyes lighting up with the same excitement I'd felt at her age. These moments with Madison were precious, but they were often followed by Karen's subtle undermining. "Don't fill her head with all that computer stuff, Hazel. She needs to focus on making friends and being normal," Karen would say, as though my career and interests were somehow abnormal. Over the years, Karen and Richard built a life that screamed success. Their house in Brookline was constantly being renovated or redecorated. They drove luxury cars, wore designer clothes, and took lavish vacations. Madison attended private school, had a closet full of expensive clothes, and received the latest iPhone every year. But beneath this glittering surface, I occasionally caught glimpses of tension. Richard would step away during family gatherings to take hushed phone calls. Karen would make comments about temporary cash flow issues before buying another designer bag. They lived as though their resources were unlimited, but something didn't add up. My gifts to Madison over the years had been met with varying degrees of criticism from Karen. The astronomy book was too advanced, the science camp gift certificate was nerdy, and the coding course I paid for was a waste when she could be doing something fun. Despite Karen's comments, Madison always showed genuine appreciation for my gifts, often calling or texting weeks later to share how she was using them. As Madison's 15th birthday approached, I noticed her interest in computer science growing more serious. During a weekend visit to my condo, she confided that she was considering studying computer science in college, but she was struggling with the outdated computers at her school's computer lab. "Mom doesn't get why I need anything special," Madison said with a sigh. She thinks any laptop is fine for schoolwork, but the one I have can barely run the programming software we use in computer club. That conversation planted the seed for what I thought would be the perfect birthday gift. Little did I know it would become the catalyst for exposing years of family secrets and lies. Madison's 15th birthday was approaching and Karen, true to form, was planning an extravaganza. When she called me to discuss the arrangements, I braced myself for the excess that had become her trademark. "We've booked the Rose Garden Pavilion at the Westbrook Country Club," Karen announced without preamble. "It's where Heather Wilson had her daughter's sweet 16 last year, but of course, ours will be better." I didn't know who Heather Wilson was, but I murmured appropriate sounds of acknowledgement as Karen continued. "The theme is Midnight in Paris. We've hired a professional photographer, a 4-tier cake from Bellissimo Bakery, and a string quartet for the first hour. The party planner is costing a fortune, but Richard says Madison only turns 15 once." As Karen rattled off more excessive details, I thought about my niece, who would probably prefer a small gathering with her actual friends rather than the showcase for Karen's social circle. "That sounds elaborate," I managed. "What does Madison think about all this?" There was a brief pause. "She's thrilled, obviously. What 15-year-old wouldn't want a party like this?" I could think of at least one, but I kept that thought to myself. "Anyway," Karen continued, "I'm calling about your contribution. Several family members are pitching in for the party costs. Uncle George is handling the DJ, Mom and Dad are covering the cake, and we thought you could take care of the photography. It's only $2,000. I nearly choked. $2,000? Karen, that's excessive for birthday photos. It's a package, Hazel. 6 hours of coverage, professional editing, a custom album, and digital rights." She sighed as if explaining something to a child. "With your big tech salary, I thought you'd want to contribute something meaningful." The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. For weeks, I'd been researching laptops that would serve Madison's growing interest in coding and computer science. I'd settled on a high-performance model with excellent reviews from developers. With the added accessories and extended warranty, I'd spent just over $1,200, a significant amount for me, but worth it for something that would help shape Madison's future. "Actually, I've already purchased Madison's gift," I said firmly. "Something she specifically mentioned wanting." "Oh." Karen's voice held immediate skepticism. "What is it?" "It's a surprise," I replied, unwilling to have my gift judged before Madison even saw it. "I'm sure she'll love it." "Well, whatever it is, you can give it in addition to contributing to the photography," Karen said dismissively. "Family is expected to help with the big expenses." I took a deep breath, reminding myself that engaging further would only lead to an argument. "I need to go, Karen. I have a work deadline. I'll see you at the party." I hung up before she could protest further, feeling the familiar mixture of frustration and resignation that conversations with my sister always evoked. Looking at the laptop box on my dining table, I wondered briefly if I should have just given Karen the money she wanted and gotten Madison something smaller. But no, this gift was important. It represented not just a device, but an investment in Madison's passion and future. The evening before the party, I carefully wrapped the laptop in silver paper with a holographic ribbon. I added a card I'd spent hours writing, telling Madison how proud I was of her curiosity and determination, encouraging her to use the laptop to explore and create. I imagined her face when she opened it, the recognition that someone truly saw and supported her interests. I couldn't have known then that my carefully chosen gift would become the centerpiece of family drama that would ultimately expose years of secrets and lies. The Rose Garden Pavilion at Westbrook Country Club was transformed into Karen's vision of Parisian elegance. Miniature Eiffel Towers served as centerpieces on tables draped with silky blue linens. Strings of twinkling lights crisscrossed the ceiling, and a large backdrop featuring a nighttime scene of Paris provided the perfect photo opportunity for arriving guests. The extravagance was overwhelming and clearly expensive. A uniformed server offered champagne flutes of sparkling cider to arriving teenagers, while parents received actual champagne. A professional photographer circulated, capturing candid moments, in addition to the elaborate photo booth with Parisian-themed props. I arrived 20 minutes after the stated start time, gift in hand, dressed in a simple navy dress that suddenly felt inadequate among the cocktail attire of the other adults. Karen, wearing a designer dress I recognized from a magazine, was holding court near the entrance. "Hazel, finally," she said, air-kissing my cheeks. "Everyone's almost here. You can put your gift on the table over there." She gestured to a table already piled with elegantly wrapped packages, most significantly larger than mine. As I placed my gift on the table, I noticed Richard at the bar, checking his phone with a furrowed brow. When he saw me looking, he quickly pocketed the device and forced a smile, coming over to greet me. "Good to see you, Hazel," he said, kissing my cheek. "Thanks for coming." There was something strained in his manner, a tension around his eyes that didn't match the celebratory atmosphere. Before I could inquire, Madison spotted me from across the room and rushed over, throwing her arms around me. "Auntie Hazel, you made it." Her genuine enthusiasm was a balm after Karen's cool reception. Madison looked beautiful in a midnight blue dress, her hair styled in elaborate curls. But she also looked slightly uncomfortable, tugging at the fitted bodice when she thought no one was watching. "I wouldn't miss it," I assured her. "This is quite the party your parents have thrown." Madison rolled her eyes slightly. "Mom's party, you mean?" "I just wanted pizza and a movie with friends, but you know how she gets." I laughed, grateful for my niece's down-to-earth perspective. "Well, at least the food should be good." "Speaking of which," Madison said, lowering her voice, "they're serving some fancy French stuff that nobody wants to eat." The caterers brought out escargot, and Zoe almost threw up. Our conspiratorial moment was interrupted by Karen announcing it was time for the formal dinner service. I was seated at a table with some distant relatives and a couple of Karen's friends, all of whom seemed impressed by the extravagance of the event. "Karen always does everything so perfectly," one woman whispered to me. "This must have cost a fortune." I smiled noncommittally and focused on my plate of barely touched French cuisine. Across the room, I could see the table of teenagers picking at their food, clearly wishing for something more approachable. After dinner, Karen clinked her glass dramatically. "Time for the gifts," she announced. "Everyone, please gather around the gift table." Madison was escorted to a decorative chair positioned for maximum visibility. Karen stood beside her, effectively turning the gift opening into a performance with herself as co-star. "Start with the big ones," Karen instructed, handing Madison a large box wrapped in gold paper. The next 20 minutes were a parade of expensive gifts: designer clothes from Karen's friends, expensive jewelry from grandparents, the latest gadgets from cousins and uncles. Karen narrated throughout, making sure everyone knew the brand names and approximate values of each item. Madison thanked each giver politely, but I could see her enthusiasm was forced. Finally, Karen handed Madison my silver-wrapped package. "This one's from Aunt Hazel," she announced, her tone already suggesting diminished expectations. Madison's face lit up as she tore through the wrapping paper. When she opened the box to reveal the high-performance laptop, Her eyes widened with genuine excitement. Auntie Hazel, is this really the ProBook 5000? She gasped, running her fingers over the sleek surface. This is exactly what I needed for my coding projects. Before I could respond, Karen's voice cut through Madison's enthusiasm. That's it? Looks like a cheap model. The words were spoken loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, her tone dripping with disappointment. Madison's face fell immediately. Mom, no, it's actually top-rated for programming. It's perfect. But Karen was already turning to the woman beside her, speaking in a stage whisper. You'd think with her big tech job, she could afford something better than that basic model. Heat rushed to my face as several guests glanced awkwardly between Karen and me. Richard, standing nearby, looked embarrassed, but said nothing to contradict his wife. The specifications are actually quite advanced, I said evenly, trying to maintain my composure. It's specifically designed for coding and development work. Well, it's the thought that counts, Karen replied with a dismissive wave. Let's move on to Grandma and Grandpa's gift, shall we? Madison caught my eye, her face stricken. I love it, Auntie Hazel, she said firmly. It's exactly what I wanted. But the moment was ruined. As the gift opening continued, I excused myself to find the restroom, needing a moment to collect myself. In the hallway outside the main pavilion, I overheard Karen speaking to a small group of her friends. I mean, she makes 6 figures at that tech company and she brings a bargain laptop? Madison already has a computer. I thought Hazel would contribute to the party costs instead of bringing something so practical. The word was spoken like an insult. I stood frozen, humiliation washing over me. The laptop had cost me nearly a month's disposable income after bills and investments. I'd researched for weeks to find the perfect balance of performance, reliability, and value. And Karen had dismissed it as cheap, not because it was, but because it didn't broadcast wealth like the designer clothes and jewelry she preferred. In that moment, something shifted inside me. Years of tolerating Karen's materialism and subtle put-downs crystallized into a single, clear decision. I returned to the party with newfound resolve, waiting patiently for the celebration to wind down before I would make my move. The party began winding down around 9 o'clock. Teenagers, stuffed with cake and tired from dancing, were being collected by parents. The string quartet had long since packed up, replaced by a DJ who was now playing slower songs as a hint that the evening was concluding. I waited near the gift table, where Madison was showing a friend the laptop. Her excitement was evident as she pointed out features and explained what she planned to do with it. The contrast between her genuine appreciation and her mother's dismissal strengthened my resolve. As the last guests departed, leaving only immediate family, I approached Madison, who was still exploring the laptop's features. This processor is amazing, Auntie Hazel, she gushed. And it has dedicated graphics memory, which is going to make rendering so much faster for my animation projects. Karen, supervising the staff as they cleaned up, overheard and approached us. Madison, don't get too attached to that basic computer. Maybe we can exchange it for something better. Madison's face fell. Mom, this is exactly what I wanted. It's perfect for coding. Sweetie, with your father's connections, we could get you something top of the line. That looks like something a college student would use. Karen's tone was patronizing, as though discussing a child's crayon drawing rather than a high-performance machine. Richard, who had been speaking with the event manager, joined us, looking tired. What's going on? I was just saying we should help Madison upgrade from this cheap laptop Hazel brought, Karen explained, not even attempting to lower her voice for my benefit. Something inside me snapped. Years of tolerating Karen's materialism and condescension culminated in this moment, and I found myself speaking with a calm I didn't actually feel. Karen, this laptop cost $1,200. It has an i7 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and a dedicated graphics card. It's specifically designed for programming and development work, exactly what Madison has expressed interest in. Karen's eyes widened slightly at the price, clearly higher than she'd assumed, but she recovered quickly. Well, you should have consulted with us first. Madison already has a laptop. A 5-year-old MacBook that can barely run her programming software, Madison interjected. Mom, I told you I needed something more powerful. You should have spoken to us before purchasing something so significant, Karen continued, ignoring Madison. As her parents, we should coordinate on major gifts. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange clarity. If my gift isn't good enough, I'll take it back. Karen scoffed. Don't be dramatic, Hazel. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being practical. I turned to Madison, whose eyes had gone wide with alarm. Madison, I chose this gift specifically for your coding interests. I researched for weeks to find the best balance of performance and value. But your mother has made it clear she doesn't find it acceptable. Auntie Hazel, please don't take it back, Madison pleaded. I love it. It's exactly what I wanted. When you respect a gift, you respect the giver, I said gently. Your mother has made it clear my contribution isn't valued. I began carefully returning the laptop to its box. Madison turned to her mother, tears forming in her eyes. Mom, please tell Auntie Hazel you didn't mean it. Tell her the laptop is great. Karen's face flushed with anger. Hazel, stop this right now. You're being childish and ruining Madison's birthday. No, Karen. You ruined it when you publicly criticized my gift. I secured the box and tucked it under my arm. Maybe this will be a valuable lesson for Madison about gratitude and respecting others. Richard finally spoke up, his voice strained. Hazel, this is unnecessary. Let's all calm down. I am calm, Richard. I'm simply removing a gift that was deemed inadequate. I turned to Madison, whose tears were now flowing freely. Madison, I love you. When your mother learns to respect other people's contributions, we'll revisit this. You are unbelievable, Karen sputtered. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Karen? I asked quietly. Besides criticize my career, my lifestyle choices, and now a thoughtful gift for my niece. The silence that followed was deafening. Madison looked between her mother and me, devastation written across her face. Richard stood awkwardly to the side, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to challenge Karen. I think it's time for me to go, I said finally. Madison, I'm sorry your birthday ended this way. As I walked to my car, I could hear Karen's angry voice behind me, followed by Madison's tearful protests. My phone began buzzing with incoming calls from Karen before I even reached the highway, but I silenced it, needing space to process what had just happened. That night, I lay awake questioning my decision. Had I overreacted? Should I have simply endured Karen's rudeness as I had so many times before? But each time I replayed her dismissive words and the public humiliation she'd subjected me to, my resolve strengthened. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Madison. I'm sorry about Mom. I love the laptop and I know how much thought you put into it. Please don't be mad at me. I replied immediately, I could never be mad at you. This is between your mother and me. I love you and we'll talk soon. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling, wondering what repercussions would follow. I couldn't have anticipated just how significant those repercussions would be. 2 weeks passed with no contact from Karen. I texted Madison occasionally, careful to keep our conversations light and avoid putting her in the middle of adult conflicts. She responded warmly but briefly, and I suspected Karen was monitoring their communications. My sister's silence was unusual. Typically, Karen would have called repeatedly, escalating from angry accusations to tearful manipulations. The quiet was unsettling, and despite my determination to stand firm, guilt began to creep in. Had I been too harsh? Was Madison suffering because of my principled stand? I was contemplating reaching out to Karen when my doorbell rang on a rainy Saturday afternoon. Through the peephole, I was shocked to see Richard standing in the hallway of my apartment building, looking uncharacteristically disheveled in jeans and a wrinkled button-down shirt. When I opened the door, the scent of alcohol hit me immediately. Richard's eyes were bloodshot, and he'd clearly skipped his usual meticulous grooming routine. Can I come in? He asked, his voice hoarse. Confused and concerned, I stepped aside. Richard had never visited my apartment alone in all the years he'd been married to Karen. Something was very wrong. He paced my small living room before finally dropping onto my couch, running his hands through his hair. I don't even know where to start, Hazel. I sat across from him, anxiety building. Is Madison okay? She's fine. Well, not fine, but she's safe. He sighed heavily. It's everything else that's falling apart. Richard stared at his hands for a long moment before looking up at me. We're broke, Hazel. Completely underwater. I blinked, trying to process this statement against the backdrop of their lavish lifestyle. What do you mean, broke? You just threw a party that must have cost thousands. 15,000, actually. On credit cards that are maxed out. He laughed bitterly. The house has 2 mortgages. The cars are leased with payments we can barely make. My family's dealership business has been struggling for years, and my position there, he trailed off, looking ashamed. My salary is half what Karen thinks it is. I've been trying to shield her from reality, taking loans, juggling accounts. I sat in stunned silence as Richard continued to unload their financial secrets. The market crashed right after we bought the house. Then we renovated because Karen wanted to host holiday gatherings. Then the private school tuition increased, but I couldn't tell her Madison might need to transfer. Every time I tried to suggest cutting back, Karen would get upset about appearances, about what her friends would think. Richard, I had no idea, I said quietly. The extravagant birthday party now seemed not just excessive but delusional. He rubbed his face wearily. No one does. We've been keeping up appearances for so long I sometimes forget it's all smoke and mirrors. He looked at me directly. Karen had been counting on returning Madison's birthday gifts for cash. What? The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Not all of them, just the expensive ones she could exchange. The jewelry from her parents, some of the electronics, and your laptop. She figured with the receipt she could get close to $1,000 back. Shock gave way to anger as the implications became clear. So when she called my gift cheap, she was actually upset because she thought it wouldn't have good resale value, Richard finished. When you took it back, she lost it. That's why she's been avoiding you. She was counting on that money to make the minimum payment on her Nordstrom card. The twisted logic was almost impossible to comprehend. Karen had insulted my gift not despite its value but because of it, because she had planned to essentially steal it from her daughter for cash. Does Madison know about any of this? I asked, thinking of my niece's excitement about the laptop. Richard's expression grew even more pained. Not the extent of it, but she knows something's wrong. She's heard us fighting about money. That's part of why I'm here. He took a deep breath. Hazel, I need to ask you something, and I know it's completely inappropriate given everything, but we're desperate. The request, when it came, was both expected and shocking. Could you give the laptop back? Or maybe, lend us some money to get through the next couple of months. I stared at him, this man who had married my sister 15 years ago. I had always seen him as Karen's enabler, the source of the wealth she flaunted. Now I recognized the fear behind his façade, the desperation of someone whose house of cards was finally collapsing. Richard, I can't enable this, I said gently. You and Karen need financial counseling, not another bailout. This has clearly been building for years. His face hardened. So you'll let your sister suffer because of pride? Over a laptop? This isn't about the laptop anymore, I explained. It's about patterns of behavior that have been destructive for years. Karen used Madison's birthday as a status symbol, planned to sell her gifts behind her back, and publicly humiliated me for not playing along. I won't participate in that. Richard stood abruptly, anger replacing his earlier vulnerability. You've always been jealous of Karen. Even now, when you could help, you're choosing to judge us instead. I'm not judging you, Richard. I'm refusing to enable behavior that's hurting everyone, including Madison. I stood my ground. I'm happy to help Madison directly. I'm happy to recommend financial advisors. But I won't give money that will just delay the inevitable reckoning with reality. He grabbed his jacket, his movements jerky with anger. Karen was right about you. You pretend to be so concerned and righteous, but you're enjoying this. As he stormed out, slamming my apartment door behind him, I sank back onto the couch, emotionally exhausted. Far from enjoying their predicament, I felt deeply sad for all of them, especially Madison. But beneath the sadness was a certainty that I had made the right decision. The cycle of materialism, deception, and manipulation needed to end, and sometimes only a crisis could precipitate real change. I didn't know then that the real turning point was yet to come. 3 days after Richard's unexpected visit, I received a text from Madison asking to meet at a cafe near her school. I agreed immediately, worried about how she was coping with the family tension and curious about what she wanted to discuss away from her parents. The cafe was a cozy spot frequented by students from Madison's school. When I arrived, I found her already seated in a corner booth, hunched over a mug of hot chocolate. She looked smaller somehow, her usual confidence dimmed. When she saw me, she attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hey, Auntie Hazel," she said as I slid into the booth across from her. "Thanks for coming." "Of course, sweetheart. I've been worried about you." I studied her face, noting the dark circles under her eyes. "How are you holding up?" Madison stirred her hot chocolate, avoiding my gaze. "Things are pretty bad at home," she admitted. "Mom and Dad fight all the time now. Not just about the laptop, but about everything. Money mostly." I nodded, careful not to reveal what Richard had already told me. This needed to come from Madison. "I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about it?" She was quiet for a long moment before the words seemed to burst from her. "We're broke, Auntie Hazel. Like, seriously broke." Her voice cracked slightly. "Dad sat me down yesterday and told me we might have to move. The bank could take our house. And I might have to change schools next year because they can't afford the tuition anymore." I reached across the table and took her hand. "That sounds really scary, Madison. I'm so sorry you're going through this." "The thing is," she continued, a hint of anger entering her voice, "I think I've known something was wrong for a while. Mom's always buying stuff, but then she returns half of it the next week. And Dad's always on the phone arguing with someone about payments." She took a deep breath, and what she said next stunned me. "Mom returned most of my birthday gifts." "What?" Although Richard had hinted at this, hearing it confirmed by Madison was shocking. "I went to look for the earrings Grandma gave me, and they were gone. And the designer jacket from Mom's friend Heather. When I asked Mom, she got super defensive and said they were being adjusted or exchanged, but I'm not stupid." Madison's eyes welled with tears. "She sold them or returned them for money, didn't she?" I hesitated, torn between honesty and protecting her. "Madison, what's happening with your family finances isn't your responsibility or your fault. Your parents are adults who made their own choices. But that's why you took the laptop back, isn't it?" Madison asked, surprising me with her insight. "You figured out what Mom was planning to do with it." "Not exactly," I admitted. "I took it back because your mother publicly disrespected a gift I had chosen carefully for you. I only learned later that she had other motives." Madison nodded slowly. "I was so mad at you at first," she confessed. "But then I saw Mom going through my other gifts, checking price tags and searching for receipts. And I realized what was happening." She looked up at me, her eyes showing a maturity beyond her 15 years. "She was never going to let me keep the laptop, was she?" "I don't know, sweetheart," I answered honestly. "But I do know it wasn't right to use your birthday as a way to get expensive items that could be converted to cash." Madison wiped away a tear. "I didn't even want that stupid party. I told Mom I just wanted to go to Six Flags with a few friends. The whole thing was for her, not me." This confirmed what I had suspected all along. "Madison, I want you to know that I didn't take the laptop back to punish you. I took it because sometimes we need to set boundaries with people we love when their behavior is harmful." "I know," she said quietly. "That's actually why I wanted to talk to you. I want to apologize for my mom. What she said about your gift was really mean, and I was embarrassed that she treated you that way." Her maturity and empathy touched me deeply. "You don't need to apologize for your mother's behavior, Madison. But thank you." We sat in companionable silence for a moment before I made a decision. "Madison, the laptop is still yours. I bought it for you because I believe in your talent and your interest in coding. But I need to know it will remain yours." Her eyes widened. "You still have it?" "Of course. I wouldn't give away something I bought specifically for you." Hope bloomed on her face, quickly followed by uncertainty. "But Mom would probably just take it anyway. She's been so desperate about money lately. What if we set it up with passwords only you know? And I keep it at my place when you're not using it for projects." Madison considered this. "That might work. But wouldn't that make things worse between you and Mom? Possibly, I acknowledged. But my relationship with your mother is for us adults to figure out. Your education and opportunities shouldn't be collateral damage in adult conflicts. We worked out an arrangement. Madison would come to my apartment for coding sessions. The laptop would stay with me, protected from being returned or sold. Additionally, I offered to pay for coding classes on the condition that she maintain her grades in school. This isn't charity, Madison, I explained as we finalized our plan. This is an investment in your future. All I ask in return is that you work hard and eventually use these skills to build something meaningful. She hugged me tightly, the first genuine display of happiness I'd seen from her since before her birthday. Thank you, Auntie Hazel. I promise I won't let you down. We parted with a sense of optimism I hadn't expected from our meeting. But the peace was short-lived. 3 days later, I was at work when Karen appeared in the lobby of my office building, demanding to see me. My colleague's uncomfortable text gave me just enough warning to step away from a meeting and head downstairs, where I found Karen creating a scene at the security desk. There you are, she said when she spotted me, her voice carrying across the lobby. We need to talk right now. I guided her outside to minimize the spectacle, acutely aware of curious eyes following us. Karen, I'm in the middle of a workday. What's so urgent it couldn't wait? Madison told me about your little arrangement, she spat. How dare you go behind my back and undermine my authority as her mother? I took a deep breath, determined to remain calm. Madison came to me, Karen. She knows you returned her other birthday gifts for cash. She knows about the financial problems. Karen's face paled slightly before flushing with anger. Our financial situation is none of your business. And you had no right to make promises to Madison without consulting me. Madison has a right to pursue her interests without having her educational tools sold from under her, I replied evenly. The laptop stays with me, and she uses it for coding classes. That's the arrangement. Stop interfering in my family. Karen's voice rose, drawing attention from passers-by. First you humiliate me at the party, and now you're trying to turn my daughter against me. This isn't about you, Karen. It's about Madison's future. And if you're concerned about humiliation, perhaps consider how Madison felt learning her birthday gifts were being returned for cash. Karen's expression shifted suddenly, anger giving way to something more vulnerable. You have no idea what we've been going through, she said, her voice breaking. You've always had everything figured out, living your perfect, organized life while judging me for mine. I don't judge you for having financial problems, Karen. Everyone struggles sometimes. I judge you for prioritizing appearances over honesty, for using Madison's birthday as a cash grab, and for treating me with contempt when I tried to give her something meaningful. Karen's façade cracked completely then. To my shock, she began to sob right there on the sidewalk outside my office building. I don't know what to do anymore, she admitted between gasps. Everything's falling apart. Richard might lose his job. The bank is threatening foreclosure. I can't even afford Madison's school lunches, but I'm too ashamed to apply for the reduced lunch program. For the first time in years, possibly ever, I was seeing the real Karen beneath the carefully constructed image. She was terrified, overwhelmed, and yes, deeply ashamed. Karen, I said gently, you need help. Not just financial help, but help facing reality. You can't keep living as if nothing's wrong. You don't understand what it's like, she insisted. Everyone expects us to be successful, to have the perfect life. No, Karen. You expect that of yourself, and you've built a house of cards trying to maintain an illusion. I sighed, softening my tone. I can help you find a financial counselor. I can support Madison's education. But I won't give you money to perpetuate a lifestyle that's literally bankrupting your family. Karen wiped her eyes, looking suddenly exhausted. I don't even know where to start fixing this mess. You start by being honest, I told her. With yourself, with Richard, with Madison, and with everyone else in your life. No more pretending, no more keeping up appearances at all costs. She nodded slowly, the fight gone out of her. Madison really loves that laptop, you know. She talks about the coding projects she wants to do. I know. That's why I bought it for her. As Karen left, shoulders slumped in defeat, I wasn't sure if we had reached a turning point or merely a temporary truce. But for the first time in our adult relationship, We had spoken honestly to each other, without the usual shields of judgment and resentment. It was a small step, but perhaps a significant one. 6 months passed, bringing changes I never could have predicted when I walked out of Madison's birthday party with the laptop under my arm. The autumn leaves had given way to winter snow and then spring blossoms, marking the passage of time as our family dynamic slowly shifted and healed. Madison flourished in her coding classes, coming to my apartment 3 times a week to work on increasingly complex projects. The laptop, which had been the catalyst for so much conflict, became her constant companion during these sessions. She developed an app to help her classmates organize study groups and was working on a website for a local animal shelter. Her confidence grew with each successful project, and she began talking seriously about studying computer science in college. Professor Jenkins says I could apply for a summer internship at MIT next year, she told me during one of our sessions, her eyes shining with excitement. He says my portfolio is already stronger than some college freshmen he's taught. Karen and Richard underwent changes too, though the path was far from smooth. After our confrontation outside my office, Karen reluctantly agreed to meet with the financial counselor I recommended. The initial session had been difficult. Karen walked out twice, unwilling to face the reality of their situation, but eventually, necessity overcame pride. They sold their luxury SUV, replacing it with a modest sedan. Richard worked with his family to stabilize his position at the dealership, taking a course in digital marketing to increase his value to the business. They put their oversized house on the market, looking at smaller homes in neighborhoods with good public schools. Madison would finish the year at her private school, but would transfer to the public high school for her junior year. It's actually not as bad as I thought, Madison confided during one of our coding sessions. The public school has a really good computer science program, and I already know some kids there from coding club. My relationship with Karen remained fragile, but was slowly improving. We had begun having coffee once a month, conversations that started awkwardly but gradually became more authentic. During our most recent meeting, Karen had surprised me with an admission. "You know, that laptop was the most valuable gift Madison received," she said, stirring her coffee absently. "Not in terms of price, but in what it's given her. I don't think I've ever seen her so focused and excited about something." "She's talented," I replied. "She just needed the right tools and encouragement." Karen nodded thoughtfully. "I didn't understand that before. I thought success meant having the right address, the right clothes, the right social connections. I never considered that real success might look completely different for Madison." These moments of insight from Karen were still interspersed with backsliding into old patterns. Just last week, she'd mentioned wanting to throw an intimate gathering for 30 people to celebrate their new, more modest home, but progress was undeniable. Richard, too, had shown growth. When he stopped by my apartment to pick up Madison after a coding session, he awkwardly thanked me. The tough love approach. I resented it at the time, but it was what we needed, he admitted. We were heading for complete disaster, and you forced us to face reality before we lost everything. On a warm Saturday in May, Madison invited me to see the final version of her app before she submitted it to a statewide coding competition. As she demonstrated its features on the cheap laptop that had started everything, I felt a surge of pride not just in her accomplishments, but in how our entire family had transformed. The crisis that began with a birthday party had forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths. Karen and Richard about their finances, Madison about her parents' limitations, and me about my own resentments and boundaries. The pain had been necessary, a catalyst for growth that might never have happened otherwise. "What do you think, Auntie Hazel?" Madison asked, showing me the final screen of her app. "It's brilliant," I told her honestly. "You've created something truly valuable." And that was the ultimate lesson from our family drama. Value isn't found in expensive parties, designer labels, or keeping up appearances. It's found in authenticity, in creating rather than consuming, and, sometimes, in having the courage to say no to patterns that harm ourselves and those we love. Taking back Madison's birthday gift had seemed cruel in the moment, but it became the first domino in a series of changes that ultimately gave her something far more precious, a future built on substance rather than appearance, and adults in her life who were finally modeling honesty instead of illusion. As we all continue to heal and grow, I'm reminded that sometimes the most loving thing we can do for others is to stand firm in our boundaries, even when it hurts. The temporary pain of confrontation can lead to lasting transformation that would never have been possible otherwise. Have you ever had to take a difficult stand that ended up having unexpected positive consequences? Or have you witnessed someone prioritizing appearances over authenticity and wondered what it would take for them to change? Share your stories in the comments below. And if this tale of family drama and redemption resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about navigating complicated relationships. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most necessary changes.